everybody. 5U for here in the chilly snake pit of Columbus, Ohio.
Elliott has the first down and more, and Elliott's going to have a touchdown.
Carr, watch out! Blake Carr, blazing speed. Can he get there? No, but he's down at the Ohio State 11.
Samuel cuts it back. Ohio State wins.
Stroud in trouble, and Stroud is sacked again.
There's nothing quite like the game.
Michigan versus Ohio State, the game of the day, the game of the year, the game of the decade. Call it what you will.
This is The Rivalry, sponsored by Elevated Integrity Construction.
This is the Rivalry Podcast. Jace, JP, your garbage-free college football podcast focused on the Ohio State-Michigan football rivalry. On Twitter at RivalPod, on Instagram at 1049 The River. Big thanks to our friends at Elevated Integrity Construction sponsoring Season 4 of the podcast. Home build, church build, not only the construction element, but the design element as well. If you've got a project, go with integrity. It's ElevatedIntegrity.com. JP, spin that wheel route. Lots to talk about. Man, what a year for the rivalry. My goodness.
Craziness. Could be potentially the craziest year. We'll talk about that. You know what I'm saying already.
All right.
I do like how every week the spinner wheel has a different advertisement, and I'm nervous because that was an Etsy one, which is where I bought every single Christmas present yesterday. Good. So I was nervous that it was going to show all the presents I bought, and it did not.
That's good news. Stadium you want to visit for wheel route. You go first. Stadium you want to visit. We checked off one of these this year with the trip to Beaver Stadium.
It's tough. I want to go watch the Rose Bowl. I just think that would be cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many good ones. Rose Bowl's a good one. I mean, SoFi Stadium has to be. I mean, that's where the Natty is this year, so I feel like that has to. Plus, I mean, it just looks dope. It just looks so cool. The weather's great. It's beautiful. It's the Rams and who else shares that? My goodness, Chargers. Both share that thing. So I'll go SoFi Stadium. Let's start with the only team that played football this weekend.
There were a lot of teams that played football
for the rivalry. JP, I am going to hand you this. Don't look at it yet.
I'm not going to read whatever this is because it's going to hurt, isn't it?
And then producer Eric, I'm going to. You don't read this yet either. Don't read it yet until I ask you. Hey JP, would you read what's on your card right there for me?
I don't want to do this.
I really need you to read what's on your card.
No, because it's going to be a TikTok.
Would you?
Did you enjoy Michigan's Big Ten championship? No.
Which one? Which one?
Here.
Hey, producer Eric, would you read your question for me?
Don't do it, Eric.
Just as written.
Who's got it better than us?
Oh my God. Oh, I hate it. I hate it so much.
Nod to Rich Eisen on the which one there. Michigan beats Purdue, goes back to back for the Big Ten championship.
Well, tough games, these two Big Ten championships you guys had to play. Iowa and Purdue.
Listen, I would have rather seen Iowa. Let's give Purdue at least a little bit of credit here. Aiden O'Connell played out of his mind.
Yeah, he was great.
And continued to think about that young man with the loss of his brother just a couple weeks ago. He played like a champ. 47 attempts. I mean, they put
300 something yards.
366. No touchdowns, couple picks, but I mean, he looked good.
Yeah, he kept him in it.
I think, and someone will have to fact check me on this, but I think that he is second in the Big Ten behind Stroud in passing yards this year, something like that. So, I mean, he's no slouch. Chuck Sizzle for Purdue, which is the greatest wide receiver name of all time, had himself a game as well. I mean,
Purdue, 126 yards or something like that.
Purdue's got a really good offense. Their defense is pretty meh at the end of the day. But I mean,
realistically, they were 8-4. I mean, it's not a trash team.
And they looked like an 8-4 team. I think Purdue, obviously you want to win. I think Purdue's got to be happy with how they played Michigan, though. Michigan at the end of the day was just too talented for them.
I don't think Purdue thought they were going to win that game, but they wanted something. They wanted something to build off of heading into next season, and I think they did that. Yeah. So
Yeah, Michigan ends up winning this game. Michigan looked like a complete team. It was a lot of what I expected to see from them. They ran the ball well. They passed the ball well. The defense looked good. There was some bend, don't break because you're playing a pretty good passing offense. In the second half adjustments, again, from the first play of the second half where Edwards broke one for 60 and Jim Knowles started having flashbacks. It was a really solid game for Michigan. And the big thing that I was concerned about is you avoided injuries. You kept guys healthy. You avoided injuries. You're not going to get Blake Corum back. Corum had surgery. He's going to be done for the year. He is done for the year. So you did this without the Big Ten running back of the year and without the Big Ten defensive lineman of the year in Mike Morris still out. So now you have a chance for Michigan as you head into the playoff to get, even if you're not getting Corum back, you know how to game plan for that now in a way that they didn't in the Illinois game.
Edwards is still above average. He's above average. And you should, knock on wood, you should get Mike Morris back, which is really going to help that pass rush. And that's going to be a big piece that Michigan's been able to win without so far. And the hope is that he'll end up being healthy. One other interesting stat from this game, because again, this was more or less domination from Michigan. Purdue tried to keep it close. Michigan just a little bit too big, a little bit too fast. How about Khalil Mullings, who again, I had never heard of until the Ohio State game, has 2 touchdowns in the Big Ten championship game. Crazy. And the freshman corner, what is it?
Will Johnson.
Will Johnson, 2 picks.
Looking like, and I saw everybody was saying this, looking like another former number 2 for Michigan and Charles Woodson with the way he's playing right now. A really, really strong secondary. And big news for Michigan coming out this weekend. Mike Sangerstill is coming back in 2023. That's a huge piece of the defense for Michigan.
Team captain.
So that's a big thing. I think it's interesting that, by the way, Khalil Mullings, who again had never heard of until a couple weeks ago, has 2 touchdowns in the Big Ten championship game. CJ Stroud in his career has 0. So that's exciting.
It's easy to score a touchdown playing Iowa and Purdue.
Well, you got to make the Big Ten championship first.
My thoughts for this is, and
I don't remember asking for your thoughts on my team's win.
Well, I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give it.
We should have a podcast.
We should, and call it the rivalry, just for fun. We were texting about this throughout the game. It was kind of a textbook Michigan game.
Yep.
Which is weird because it was not like this for Ohio State. A close game, and I feel like this is the strategy for Michigan. I feel like the first half they know they have the talent, that they're not worried about it being a close game at half. They use it as like a feeler. They want to go in. They want to see what the team is going to use as a game plan against them. And they know they have the talent to continue to, if they're down, they're only down by 3 or less, or they're going to be tied or they're going to barely be winning. But they use that
another 1 point lead.
They use that first half to kind of see, okay, what is Purdue going to come out? What is this team going to come out and do against us? Are they going to be run heavy, pass heavy? What are they doing defensively? And then they do a great job at coming out of the half and making those adjustments. I had it marked down. They outscored Purdue after only being up 14-13 at half. They outscored Purdue 29-9 in the second half. And that's been the tale of the tape the entire season. Bug,
that's the feature.
That's how it's happened. They did the same thing on offense that they always want to do. Donovan Edwards, 185 yards on 25 carries. McCarthy had another one of those games where he was 11 of 17. He threw 3 touchdowns. He didn't make any mistakes, really. He did throw a bad pick.
And
that showed a little bit of why people don't think he can throw. Ohio State being the one where he was able to make some of those bigger plays on the ground and then through the air as well. But it was kind of the ideal offensive scenario for Michigan of, let's go. We're without Corum, but Donovan Edwards is still, I would say, probably a top 3 back in the Big Ten.
I would agree with that.
Without Corum.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Well, I'm saying take away Corum. So I would still say I would still say he's a top 3 running back in the Big Ten, which is very, very good. I mean, the Big Ten's got some good running backs in there. So you throw him in there, you run the ball. Defensively, they were giving him short fieldage to work with. It was just the perfect recipe for both offense and defense. I'm not necessarily I wasn't concerned at half that Michigan was going to lose that game because I knew they're going to come out in the second half and they're going to make the right adjustments like they have all year, and it is going to be a domination. Yeah, I think seeing J.J. McCarthy have back-to-back games now where he was able to successfully throw the ball downfield, he looked good. Yeah, he did. He made one. I think that's only his 3rd pick of the year. The first one, fourth maybe 3rd or 4th.
No, he doesn't turn the ball over a lot, and that's encouraging. He hit guys who were open, and he made some really good throws. The last passing touchdown to Ronnie Bell was a perfectly timed throw in a big moment. seeing that type of consistency goes, okay, it's not just an aberration. He actually can do this. They're able to adjust to what they have now. It feels like a complete team. And Michigan, I mean, again, whether it was 21 with Iowa or 22 with Purdue, Michigan gave up 1 touchdown in 2 Big Ten championship games. I don't care who you're playing. That's just really impressive. Holding teams to field goals.
You're still
That's
playing a good enough team.
Michigan looks good, so now they'll rest. Playoff scenarios are set. One interesting piece of the puzzle, we mentioned Mike Sainer still going to come back for this year.
Yeah.
Cade McNamara in the transfer portal is going to Iowa.
Yep,
and
a lot of big names in the transfer portal.
There's a lot going on there, and we'll maybe be able to dive into that in future episodes as we kind of figure out where some of these names are landing.
Yeah.
DJ.
Whatever, the Clemson quarterback, DJ.
Quarterback from Clemson.
Ukulele is all I can ever.
Yikes. Yeah, he's in the portal. We'll see what happens there.
Brennan Armstrong, he's in the portal.
Yeah, and good luck to him there. But I think Cade going to Iowa is a good move for him. I think Iowa's getting obviously they're getting a championship caliber quarterback there. There's another rumor floating around for Michigan that might be out by the time this podcast comes out Wednesday at noon. But there's rumors that Michigan's going to be losing another presumably offensive playmaker to the portal. And there's some rumblings that's going to be, it may very well be Eric All going with Cade to Iowa. That's the message board rumor, which I don't get into a whole lot.
Yeah.
But I'll throw out there that Michigan is thought to maybe lose another guy to go with Cade. If it does end up being Eric All, you have Colston Loveland, who's been absolutely phenomenal as a freshman.
Oh yeah, especially the past couple of games.
It's reloading season at this point in Michigan football. So we'll throw that out there.
It's not just a game, it's the game. You're listening to The Rivalry.
Yeah, but I think you brought it up a little bit. The playoff rankings, if we want to dive into that right now. After Friday night, I think basically everybody kind of knew, regardless what happened in the TCU game, everybody kind of knew what the rankings were going to be. So if you, by some chance, missed it, we went over and we did this on our Twitter Spaces, which you can always see after rankings come out over at Rival Pod on Twitter. But it was Georgia at 1, not surprising, after a domination over LSU. Michigan at number 2 after a dominating victory in the Big Ten Championship against Purdue. Then you had TCU, even though they lost, which... gross. That game made me so mad because I was so pumped for a second because I was like, I should root for TCU to lose so that there's a glimmer of a chance that we jump them and get at 3. But then I thought, I kind of want to see the Horned Frogs make it. So who cares? I felt confident enough. That even if they lost or even if they won, Ohio State was still going to take that 4 seed. And so I was rooting for them, and I am still baffled at how the coach made 2 atrocious back-to-back play calls in overtime from like inches away.
And like, granted, TCU got a terrible spot.
Yeah, but you're still a yard.
Doing there?
You're still a yard. And Max Duggan had been like the player to keep them into it. And how you are that close and run 2 draw plays like that took... For maybe it was just me, but it seemed like it took way longer to develop.
No, it absolutely did.
It took so much time for him to actually make the handoff. And I just don't understand that play calling back to back like that. And your best player just doesn't touch the ball.
Well, and I get like for spread offenses, like you operate out of the shotgun, but I will never for the life of me understand why you would not put him under center and sneak it.
At least once.
Max Duggan was playing, and I'm not saying he would win it, but Duggan was playing Heisman caliber type of game.
He moved up the board to me.
Like, absolutely incredible. Why would you take the ball out of his hands?
Twice.
It's Pete Carroll throwing the ball on the 1 yard line.
Yeah.
It's that type of stupidity where I go, what you deserve to lose the game at that point. What are you thinking?
And
Give it to the man who's been doing it the whole time.
I felt bad for Max because afterwards you're sitting there watching him just completely emotionally break down.
Well, because he's hurt too.
He's hurt. He wanted to win the game. He thinks that he was the guy that could have done it. I think he was going to be able to do it. And to come up short like that is just devastating. I'm glad that they made the playoffs. Because I'm excited to see him go and see what he can do on the big stage. I
agree. What do you think? We're going to get into like the specifics of Michigan, TCU, Ohio State, Georgia, the real deep dive closer to that game actually happening. But what do you think about first? Do you think the committee got it right? And I agree with you that there's no surprise there. The question was, as much as they lobbied for Alabama to get in and Nick Saban's showing up at halftime parade. Somebody on the fan pointed this out, that there had been a tweet that said, if you host a college football podcast tonight, Nick Saban will probably come on as a guest, which feels like a missed opportunity for us.
Yeah, come on,
the old big board there. Outside of that, which I don't think anybody outside of Tuscaloosa thought would happen, did they get it right keeping TCU at number 3?
I think so. It's one of those weird things, and I do hate it, but I love it at the same time because it benefited Ohio State. I'm super thankful that they're going to be expanding the playoffs for weekends such as this, because I think Ohio State is better than USC. I thought Ohio State's better than TCU, but you're giving these other teams like USC and TCU an extra week to lose.
Yep.
Ohio State's coming into the playoffs with an 11-1 record. TCU's coming in with a 12-1 record. So they had an extra week to potentially lose, and that could have blown their season when it should have been something that should have been rewarded. And I'm glad it was. But it does feel a little bit gross that some of these teams are being kicked out for succeeding, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Look at it this way. If you had 11-1 Ohio State, you had 11-1 USC going into this past weekend, if that championship game, not a forfeit, okay, that's a loss, okay, I get that.
Yeah.
If the Pac-12 doesn't have a championship game, like Big 12 didn't for a long time, USC goes to the playoff over Ohio 100%. State. Do I think that they're a better team? No, but they earned it. So I agree. I was talking with somebody earlier today. I don't think you have to expand the playoff to 12. I don't know that I'm happy with that.
That seems excessive.
But I think expansion is good because the winning your conference is going to give you an automatic bye.
Yeah.
And it's going to open the door for a team like USC to still make the playoff and not be punished for playing in their conference championship.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe like a top 8 is a solution or something, because top 10, you're going to have teams that have 3-4 losses even after stuff. Like Kansas State, I think, is 10-3 or something. But
Kansas State would have an automatic bid and a bye, and I think that that's okay because they earned it by winning their conference. And I think that then shouldn't have been a question if TCU gets in. They're just going to have to earn it a little bit more.
Yeah,
I think that's fair, and I'll give a little bit of grace to the other side of the rivalry and say Ohio State would then have a great opportunity to be in the playoff because they should have been.
Yeah.
Now,
it's kind of the same argument, and I hate...
You can go back and forth on it.
I hate that I feel like this, but Nick Saban did have a good point.
Don't say that. Can we fix that in post?
It hurt my heart.
Nick Saban doesn't have a good point.
It hurt my heart to say it, but he brought up a good point and I feel this way about Ohio State. If they would have been left out, where you look at some of these teams and you go, if Alabama would have played or made the playoffs and been put up against these teams outside of maybe Georgia, who would be favored in that game?
I think Michigan would be favored.
Of course you do.
Over Alabama.
Of course you do. I think
Ohio State would be favored.
I think Ohio State would maybe be favored.
So what he's saying is, hey, we could probably beat TCU.
No, I think what I believe is different than what ESPN and all those other people would say. I think they would put Alabama as favorites. I don't think Alabama would necessarily beat Michigan or Ohio State, but I think the media would put them out. The media.
There you go, Eric.
You're welcome, Eric. I think that they would put Alabama as favorites, and I think that's a valid point. I think if Ohio State would be put up against TCU or USC, Ohio State would have been favored. I think what the committee got right, I still don't necessarily know if I believe they got the 4 best teams. I'm still, and maybe I should feel like this a little different. I'm not convinced TCU is a top 4 team. I think they deserve it, but deserving it is a lot different than, do I actually think that they are a top 4 team in the nation? But that's the way it goes. I mean, you could be the top team, and you could be one of the top teams, and if you just choose not to perform a week, that's significant. That's what makes college football so great, is every single week matters. And if you have something happen, a Bryce Young goes down, or Texas had Quinn Ewers go down, or Hendon Hooker gets hurt, or whatever, you lose one game, it could ruin your season. And that's what happened with Alabama. They ruined their season by dropping 2 close games on the last play of the game. And I mean, those plays go the other way. We're not even talking about it. They're in. Ohio State's out. Maybe even TCU is out and Ohio State's in.
I think the counter to Saban's argument is you were favored in the LSU game and the Tennessee game, and you lost both of them. So someone described, I think it might have been Anthony Broom, part of the Michigan beat, who described it as the hypothetical bowl. And that's exactly it.
Champions every year.
And I'll give some credit to the fan as well, local media here in Columbus, who said, they said, we think Ohio State is talking about who would get the 3 seed. Ohio State, we think, is the better team, but TCU is the more deserving team.
Yeah, 100%. I would stand behind that for sure.
Stood back and went, okay, like as a Michigan man, I've got my own thoughts on, the homer mentality, as I'm sure you would in Ann Arbor. Yeah. But I thought that was a really well put statement. Ohio State's probably a better team. If I'm Michigan, TCU is the draw that I'd rather have right now. Which, I mean, let's even talk about that, because that's been a big source of contention as well, right? Does Michigan want Ohio State? JJ McCarthy was asked. Actually, Donovan Edwards was asked.
Yes.
Donovan Edwards had the classic. By the way, Donovan Edwards is a weird dude, but he's a really good football. He's a weird interviewer.
He's a classy dude.
He's a weird interviewer. But he was kind of like, well, we play whoever's on the schedule. So, and just kind of deflected. And JJ leaned in. And I think this is a really good statement. He said, please, it would be, and he said, it would be an honor to play those boys again.
The way he said it is one of those things you love it if it's your quarterback.
Yeah.
But also it's got to make you a little nervous, because you're telling me that's not billboard material and bulletin board material.
I'm telling you that it doesn't matter if it is, because Ohio State hasn't shown it matters.
But I think that could be a thing. I think that attitude right there could get you in trouble. I think you're giving fuel to the fire where you beat them. There's been
no fire.
They're coming off of a bad loss. They're going to want revenge. They're coming off 2 years of it. They've heard all this talk about how they're not great now. CJ Stroud's taking heat. Ryan Day's taking heat. The defense is taking heat. And now you're sitting there watching the fuel from not being able to play in the Big Ten championship game. That adds a little bit to it. Now you're seeing them openly talk about, we want to play them again. And the way that he was saying it
there's no doubt.
Was completely a little bit of shade being thrown. And so I think if I'm Ohio State and I'm hearing Michigan's quarterback coming, I would hope, I'm not saying this is how it is, for me personally, if I was remotely athletic and playing at Ohio State, that would have me ready to run through a brick wall, and I would be so ready.
Yeah.
And I would do whatever I could to make sure we got past Georgia to see if there was a potential chance to beat you guys in a championship game. That, to me, I would be chomping at the bits, ready to go.
It's one of those things, though, where I go, what do you want him to say? No, we don't. No, we don't want to play him. If you have come off, I mean, JJ's 2-0. Okay. JJ's 2-0. He just came off a really impressive win, something Michigan hasn't done in Columbus since 2000. And he's asked, hey, do you want to see him again? Yeah, you want to see it. So yes, I agree that there's shade. I agree that there was some shade. There's no doubt in the way he said
There's different ways to respond to it. I'm not saying I have a problem with him saying it. It makes me not like him, but that's expected. That's expected. There's 2 different ways to say it. There's the arrogant, cocky kind of a way that he took, where he's clearly throwing a little bit of shade at him, saying, absolutely, bring it on. We beat them this time. We'll do it again.
See, I think you're putting words in this.
And then there's the attitude of him saying, if we would get that chance, it would be awesome to go against him again. And there's ways to handle it. He didn't handle it that way. He chose to throw a little shade.
No, I think there's a little bit of both. I think there's a little bit of both. The other thing too, though, is, we're talking about bulletin board material. This is the same, not from you, but I'm saying this is the same narrative.
Hanging 100 on
this is the same narrative that I've heard from Ohio State it's the Brian Hartline speech. For 365 days, we've heard him talk about our quarterback, talk about our coach. What we've done, the dark comes to the light. And the light was an even worse loss than the year before. I don't buy in that bulletin board material and emotion is enough for Ohio State to beat Michigan should they play again. And I think that brings up, and again, we'll go deep dive into the actual games in future weeks, but even looking at them playing Georgia, I mean, I'm curious your gut reaction, but as if I'm trying to be unbiased,
you're trying real hard.
As an unbiased observer of college football,
you tried.
As an unbiased observer of college football, what has Ohio State shown me in the last? I mean, they haven't played a game since they lost to Michigan. What is going to change between 365 days ago and then the loss to Michigan this time? What's going to change that's going to help them beat Georgia?
I think it's going to tell us a lot. I think how they come out and
down now.
How they, as you should, since you were their biggest cheerleader, I think it's going to tell us a lot about the defense, a lot about the coaching, on how they come out against this Georgia team. Because on paper, and obviously we're going to dive into this a lot more, they're pretty similar. Now, the opponents they play, I would say, are a lot different. But on paper, statistically, C.J. Stroud, to me, is a better quarterback. Their offense, I would say, is probably slightly better. Georgia's defense is what's carried them. I don't want to say carried because they still have a good offense, but the defense is what Georgia is all about. That's what I'm curious to see, is how Ohio State can really man up against their defense. I know a lot of people are probably scared of playing them, and I think there's nerves with any championship style game. When you're in the playoffs, you're going to be nervous regardless of who you play.
Correct. Correct.
So there's a little bit of nerves, of course, but I don't think it's a guaranteed Georgia victory.
No. I mean, here's the reality is that if you make the playoffs, anybody can beat anybody.
Yep, 100%.
Neither of these games are going to be, Cincinnati was very deserving of the 4 seed last year. Could they have beat Alabama? Sure, they could have. But Alabama was clearly the better team there.
Alabama's going to win 9 out of 10.
This game this particular group of 4 teams does not have a game like that. Michigan is not going to boat race TCU.
Nope.
I don't think Georgia's going to boat race Ohio State. Now, could either of those things happen? Sure, they could. But this field in particular, anybody can beat anybody. Each of those teams has a legitimate shot to go win the whole thing.
100%.
That's just the case. TCU could absolutely beat Michigan, could absolutely beat Georgia, could absolutely. Now, will it happen? I don't know. But yeah, I just, for me, I don't see, from what I've watched of especially the last third of the season from Ohio State, I don't see any adjustments that will be made now that haven't already been made. I don't see the result being any different. And so it very much is, as a college, and again, genuinely, as an unbiased college football fan, if I'm looking at it, I go, prove it to me. Prove it to me, because you haven't played a game since the Michigan game. Until you prove it, I don't believe you can hang with Georgia for a full game.
Well, and I think a lot of people would probably agree with that. I think, and I'm biased 100% against them. So I won't ever be able to convince myself Ohio State doesn't have a chance.
Yeah, that's for sure.
How I am.
And they do have a chance. They do have a chance them to show me.
But I'm also not ignorant in thinking that I feel like a majority of people think Georgia's going to probably steamroll them. And I think people probably think, and myself included, I think TCU is a better team than people give them credit for. I think Michigan's going to beat them by double digits. It's just, those are just how I feel. I feel like a lot of people think Georgia's going to do that to Ohio State, and a majority of people think Michigan's going to do that to TCU. But like you said, this is going to be one of the most exciting playoffs, because I don't know if I think they'll be closer and more tightly contested. I don't think TCU's as bad as people think.
These are very distinct teams. I think of anybody, Michigan and Georgia, and a ton of people said this, it's kind of like looking in the mirror. Well, similar teams, similar build, similar style. TCU is a unique beast. Yep. Ohio State's completely different from Michigan and Georgia.
Well, and what's crazy is the hype that could be surrounding that Georgia-Ohio State game, because TCU Michigan's at 4:00 right before them. If Michigan wins, Ohio State knows who they're playing for a national championship. And people have said it, and it's obviously true. A national championship rematch of Ohio State and Michigan would be, I would go ahead and say, the most viewed college football championship game, and it wouldn't even be close.
Look at the stats even from a couple weeks ago when Michigan played. The viewership was like 17.6 million. The next closest, I don't even think it was Auburn, Alabama. But
no, it was like 9 million or something, right?
It was 6. It was 6
I knew
million.
It wasn't even close.
That's an 11 million viewership gap for a regular season game. The next time somebody tries to tell you that this isn't the greatest rivalry, I'm built different.
Built different.
The next time someone tries to compare this rivalry to absolutely anything, show them that stat.
Yeah, when the teams are good.
And even when even when they're not.
Even when they're bad, I would bet that they beat that. But when they are both very good, dominant teams.
I think it's worth saying this too. Let me give this. Let me give my gut reaction to TCU, and then we'll finish this out here, because there is something else I want to address. Without diving all the way into the weeds, my gut reaction to TCU is I think Michigan is a better team front to back. Max Duggan is a unique beast, and it's something Michigan hasn't seen yet, which is an extremely mobile quarterback. He's got good receivers. He's accurate. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes, and he's mobile. He's very much in the Heisman
a leader
in the Heisman conversation. He won't win it, but he's very much in the conversation. So Michigan's going to have gone from playing Heisman candidate CJ Stroud to playing Aiden O'Connell, who is second in the Big Ten behind Stroud, to playing Max Duggan, who's back in the Heisman conversation. So it's a really big stack of quarterbacks for Michigan's defense staff to go up against. And I'm curious, primarily, how does Michigan handle a mobile quarterback like that? That's what I'm going to be really interested in figuring out.
So here's my question to you. We didn't talk about this going into this, so this is kind of a wild card.
Hate this.
Give me your Heisman. Because I think this past weekend, it was Caleb Williams to lose, and I think he lost it. I think he lost it. So now to me, and I'm not, it's going to sound biased, but it's totally not. I don't see how CJ doesn't take it home now. I thought it was Caleb Williams. I thought it was Blake Corums to lose after CJ lost. I thought it would be Blake Corums to lose. Now that he's out, I just don't see it.
With his injury,
Hendon Hooker being the same way. I thought Hendon Hooker was going to be the one.
I think I still got Caleb Williams.
I think he lost it this weekend.
I think here's why I think he's still going to get it. And this is, again, we don't have Heisman votes, right?
Yeah.
I think he still gets it because, again, if we're looking at body of work to body of work, I think I'm taking Caleb Williams. And I think even in that game, okay, so in Stroud's last game against Michigan, he was good, but he wasn't great. Williams, I think, was the same way. He was good for a majority of that. He actually started off great and then got hurt. I think if it's me, I think I'm giving a lot more grace to played through an injury and didn't look good versus got blown out at home. That's just me. And
so you're going Caleb Williams.
I would go Caleb Williams right now.
Give me your top three. So Caleb winning.
Caleb winning. I think Stroud is probably going to have to be 2.
Okay.
And I think Blake's 3.
Okay.
I think Blake's 3 because you're seeing, obviously Michigan's offensive line is likely to win the Joe Moore Award again. Look at the way that they're playing. But I think Blake Corum was on track to probably win it without the injury. So I think I'll put him at 3.
I think I mostly agree with you. I think CJ will end up taking it home.
I think him and Williams.
Yeah, in front of Caleb. Then I bet you that it'll be Caleb. Then I think I'm going to go Max Duggan. Then I'm going to go Blake Corum.
So Blake goes to 4.
I think Blake goes to 4. And I disagree. I think Blake probably takes it home this year if he plays the full season.
I agree.
I think that injury just killed it, which is no disrespect to him at all because he deserved it. He deserved it, and that's just how I think. Totally unbiased aside, I think Max, the way that he's played recently, would lift him over that because he's been available.
The last thing that I want to make sure we hit on is there's been a lot of question about, does Michigan want Ohio State in the playoff? Obviously, the only chance of that right now is both teams winning their semis and going to SoFi Stadium and playing for the national title. Yikes.
I'll be sick for a month.
I can't. I don't know if I can. I will, but I don't know if I can watch it. We're not going to text for a long time if that happens. Unless we win.
I won't text you ever again if we lose.
Lose my number,
Friendship
sir.
done.
Lose my number.
New phone, who this?
But the main question was, does Michigan want Ohio State? And we kind of alluded this with the JJ saying bring it on, all that stuff. Here's where, and I can't answer for every fan, obviously, but I'll answer for me. I don't want Ohio State. And here's why. I especially didn't want them in the semis. A couple reasons. It's not for me so much, would we win, would we lose? I'm afraid of playing them again. Of course, there's some that I would rather play TCU because I think Ohio State is probably a better football team. Yeah. Sure, granted. The emotional roller coaster of gearing up for that game. You have 365 days to do it, and then you have this really intense week of just sitting there, laying awake at night, thinking about it. You come out of the game, you sweat for 4 hours.
Yes.
And if you come out on top, you go, oh, all the good feelings, we can breathe again. And all of a sudden, knock, here's another opportunity to do it all over again.
Look,
with even bigger
I can tell you
stakes.
a few things for sure.
Oh my goodness.
I can tell you a few things for sure. The day after that championship game, I'm calling off work regardless.
Take your PTO, ladies and gentlemen.
The other thing that I can promise you is that I will have to watch that championship game somewhere that there is not another soul within miles of me.
Yes. There's no watch party.
Sorry to my dear wife. I will have to leave the house and go watch it, even if it's on my phone in the parking lot in an abandoned warehouse somewhere. I can think of another place where the public might not be. I don't know.
If you own any abandoned property in Mansfield, Ohio,
watch out.
Some security cameras might be in order.
I will have to watch that game away from people because I will be a wreck. For every single second of it.
There will be, I've got family over in Dayton, so I'm sure that there would be and there might be for the playoff game too. Hey, do you want to come over and watch it? This could be the greatest thing. No, I don't. Caleb, no, I'm not doing it. I will watch it on mute.
Is that your own brother that you just said no to?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't want to watch for the same reason. There's too much stress there. So that's really, I think, the big reason why I don't want to see Ohio State again. At the very least, at this point, to get the rematch, I at least can acknowledge and appreciate that Ohio State has to earn the rematch. It would have driven me nuts to, number one, we're talking about having to sweat it out for a whole nother week and a whole nother game for bigger implications. Imagine having to do that between now and New Year's Eve, because that was the possibility. A full month of sitting there going,
at least it'll just be another week.
If as a possibility, not a surefire
as
thing.
A possibility.
It would have been extremely it would have driven me nuts for Ohio State to lose to Michigan, sit at home during the Big Ten championship, and then get a shot at the rematch for free. Now you have to go through Georgia. If you go through Georgia and Michigan, goes through TCU, you deserve the rematch. Okay, let's do this thing. So I think the committee got it right. I will say this is not original to me. I ripped this off Twitter, which is where I get all my good stuff. Quote, sitting at home after losing to your rival while others play in the Big Ten championship game and still making the playoffs feels really like a third base move to me.
Don't care. We're there.
Many people are asking if third base was too generous to Ryan Day. More on that after New Year's Eve.
I want you guys to come in and feel confident, because it is going to be that much sweeter when you guys can take the regular season victory. Give me the natty. Meet us in the natty. When we come out the victors, I will be unbearable.
Did you just say hail to the victors?
I did not.
Thanks for watching and subscribing. Enjoy the games.
The Rivalry is a production of River Radio Ministries. Want live updates from the show? Follow us on Twitter at RivalPod for live tweets, score predictions, contests, and more. And make sure to follow us wherever you're listening now for new episodes every Wednesday. And if you like what you're hearing, tell a friend so they can listen too.